The green vegetation and the flowers scattered around the little-known Ondiri Springs creates a picturesque environment nourished by a water source that runs deep underneath the ground. The sparkly treasure peeks from underneath and is seen in different spots around the vast area, letting out the secret of its great potential. This is the source of the Nairobi River that swells into the Great Athi River. The river travels through 5 counties, but its reputation becomes murkier the further it flows. NTV, in partnership with the University of Nairobi, has conducted a study to find out how bad the pollution is and the damage to the river. Our 2-month investigation shows that River Athi has formed a corridor of disease as it flows to the Indian Ocean. Although those worst affected are the communities that depend on the river directly, the issue is of national concern. We sampled 10 spots from the source at Ondiri in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, to the mouth that is at Sabaki in Malindi, Kilifi County. The Nairobi River is a feature that reveals the architectural prowess that went into the design of the city under the sun. Nairobi was designed to be a city surrounded by streams of water, Nairobi River to the east and the Ngong River to the west. The vision and the reality have flowed in different directions with the passage of time, turning the 2 sources of life into a shame and an eyesore for one of the most progressive cities in Africa.
This particular river is a concern not only to Warma, but to many key and stakeholders, investors, tourists. We are losing a lot in terms of billions, and not only on the side of investors. I want you to look at the other side of spiral effects of how much we spend in medicine, how much we spend in our hospitals. It turns to billions of money.
Our scientists are all geared up to check the biological and chemical pollutants that lurk in the waters. We follow them on this journey, recording their findings and meeting communities that depend on the Nairobi Athi water drainage basin.
We want to capture whatever is happening at source as we go downstream. And we have chosen this area since there is very few human activity. Of course, there is a few, but not as intense as we go downstream. And that's why we have decided to pick water at source. We want to understand the quality of water, both chemical and microbial, what we call the physiochemical and the microbial quality. For that, we need to sample water using different apparatus, and that's why we use this bottle. This is a sterile bottle, meaning that it has no bacterial contamination at all. We prepare it in the lab, and then when we come here, we handle it aseptically and pick water from the river as it flows without disturbing and without contamination. That means that we won't take it as it is.
The water here is clear. A thick forest acts as a buffer to protect the river by limiting human activities at close proximity. However, this quickly changes as the first pollutants are introduced into the river a few kilometers from the source. Farming activity close to the river compromises the integrity of the river as pesticides and fertilizers seep into the water through the soils.
So we are at Nairobi River, just after Uthiru, before Kawagware. The river is relatively clean compared to downstream, but relatively with a bit of sediments And the sediments would be as a result of the farming that is along the river beds. That's why it is a little bit brown.
As the river snakes its way to Museum Hill, its appearance changes significantly from the pristine, clean liquid to downright filthy sludge. It carries with it the pollutants picked up from the heavily populated Kawangware and Kangemi estates and the upmarket Riverside Drive. The presentation of the water tells of the possibility of injection of raw sewer into the river.
The color speaks for itself. There are a lot of impurities and sediments that we can see. And I had said earlier on, we can also pick the smell that was not there when we started.
On its onward journey, the river moves from bad to worse. At the country bus terminus, the recklessness of some of the city dwellers and their attitude towards the environment can be seen through the garbage that collects at the riverbank.
The water is highly polluted. That's a fact. If one would use that water, then of course a number of things may happen. And that would only take an investigation to have an in-depth understanding.
That notwithstanding, this is home to a group of street urchins who seem not to be disturbed by the stench from the river and the dangers it poses. The further the river flows, the more troubling the water appears, and the more blatant the abuse of this natural resource becomes. Residential houses next to the river often directly discharge their waste, including raw sewage, into the water.
Once we tried to touch some informal settlement, the many MCAs that came to this authority, please don't come to my section, I'm talking to my people to get out of the river. Because for them, they are seeing votes, they are seeing numbers. But you want to be voted by people who are dying.
You don't have to victimize this person by telling them to move, all right? Yes, maybe they have violated the law by building so much close to the river. But what remedy do you have before you destroy their property? I would suggest that first we look at the solution we are bringing on board, whether it will save that house or not.
And as it moves further east in Dandora, it meets and joins Mathare River, which is equally flowing in filth. The Dandora dam site lets us into the government's attitude towards the country's rivers. Of all the places that could have been used as a garbage field, this appeared to be the most appropriate. Environmental standards require a 6 to 30 meter distance between any water source and any human activity. That doesn't seem to apply here. It seems then that the public is taking the cue from its leadership. The body of water then cascades into the Dandora Falls. At first glance, it has the markings of a beautiful destination that will provide great recreation for Nairobi residents.
Si vision yenye tuko nayo, tunataka ikue ni park. Park yenye ati si lazima mimi saa zile nataka kutembeza familia yangu, ati nitoke hapa niende places zingine. Naweza leta mtoi wangu hapa na feel ako ndani ya community yake, lakini community yenye iko sawa.
However, the potential has been snuffed out by the garbage and sewage that has transformed the river into a flowing sewer.
Right now, nothing can survive in this river. It got choked up with so much garbage and so much waste, such that ipendezi hata macho, you know.
Nonetheless, it appears that the river provides nourishment to vegetables that may make it to the dining tables of some city dwellers. The water here appears heavy with sediments. It is dark in color and foamy. Area residents say the situation was different in the past.
Once tukiwa watoi hapa, tulikuwa tunakamigi fishing hapa. Tunaweza come to fish hapa, na tuwashe moto hapa na tuipikie hapa. No due time juu pia county government ilikam ni kama ikaslip kidogo. Wale malandlord walikam wakaanza kuown land hizi areas karibu na hii mto, walianza kuelekeza sewer lines zao kwa mto.
This group of youth has taken it upon themselves to clean the waterfall, which in itself seems to be a mission in futility.
It's a combined effort. If those who are removing waste continue removing waste, and those who are dumping waste continue dumping waste, then it will be a tug of war where we cannot win.
They have, however, grown this forest as a way of honoring a river that provided great memories of their childhood, even as they hope for better days ahead. From here, we visit the 14 falls whose reputation precedes itself. We anticipate to see the 14 majestic falls that draw locals and foreigners alike. But on arrival, we are disappointed. The air is heavy with a strong familiar stench that wards off any desire to interact with the water.
We have a lot of human or animal waste, and mostly human waste because this is Nairobi, that ends up in the river. There are chemicals that may be released to the river. So a combination of all that would be an explanation of the foaming that we are seeing, as well as the color that, of course, indicates a lot of sewer contaminants.
At this point, the Nairobi River has joined the Ngong River and now officially becomes Athi River. The source of the Ngong River is at the Embakasi Forest in Ngong, Kajiado County. And just like Nairobi River, the narrative is the same. Clean at the source, passes through several slum areas, including Kibera slum, goes through the industrial area where it mingles with all manner of chemicals, and the end result is filthy and life-threatening.
There are a number of parameters that you check for water to qualify for domestic use. And simple ones would be color and smell. If you can't attain the qualities at that level, you don't even have to go a little deeper to the things that you can't see. And this water has failed that.
On our second visit to the 14 falls, the water levels have significantly dropped, but still this area continues to enjoy visits, more specifically from students. Athi River acts as a boundary between Kiambu County and Machakos County at the 14 falls. Residents of this area largely depend on agriculture, and yes, farmers rely on water from this river for their produce. Huge trucks of pipes reveal this secret. Agnes Katungua, a farmer, says Athi River is their only hope.
Hatuwezi kusema ati ni kazi mzuri, hapana. Tunasema hii maji ni mbaya. Surely ni mbaya, hata ukiinua hivi ukiangalia si ni ya green. Hiyo green hebu niambie uende wewe ukiweka kwa karai uone ni green uoge. Unaweza? Enda usafishe vyombo, unaweza kusafisha naye. Kwa hivyo hii maji kusema ukweli haitusaidii hata. Kwa sababu kama inatusaidia kama saa hii ningekuwa na nyumba ya mawe. Lakini saa hii niko na nyumba ya matope na niko kwa mto, inaweza kunisaidia niwe tajiri.
We find Katungua at her farm with her 2 children. She grows vegetables that not only feed her family but also provide her with an income.
Hii shamba ni yangu ni ya eka 5. Siwezi kujisaidia naye kwa sababu ninalima. Maji kialifika, ile pesa nilikuwa natafuta si imeisha.
The food that she grows is, however, dammed from the point she puts the seed into the ground. Her water source slowly poisons the fruit and the damage is evident.
Unaona mumea kama sasa uangalie hii mimea, unaona inaanza kukauka na chini. Kwa hivyo inaanza kuaffectiwa na hiyo maji. Tukifika mwezi wa 7 tunaondoka kwa shamba, wa 8, wa 9 tunaanza kuondoka kwa shamba kwa sababu ugonjwa inakuanga mingi kwa sababu ya maji vile inakuanga mbaya.
Katungua tells us that she knows the water is unfit for farming as middlemen who engage in the export market continuously reject their produce. This has led them to redirect their market to the source of the pollution, the city dwellers.
Wenye wananunuanga wanakujanga kwa masamba. Wanakuja wanajua misiri inatoka wapi ama biribiri. Hata biribiri washukuangi. Hata hii mabaubau washukuangi.
They would feed. They will feel okay today and tomorrow. But 1 year down the line, you may not tell what's happening.
Hata mimi nikipeleka hii sukuma huko kwa soko, siwezi kusema inatoka Athi River. Mimi nasema inatoka huko Ukambani. Ndio wasiseme inatoka kwa sewage.
And so it seems that the pollution has come full circle, as the polluters are served up a slice of the poisoned fruit. But it is not just the small-scale farmers who use the river water. NTV can confirm that Del Monte Farm, that produces pineapples both for export and the local market, uses the Athi River water. Our cameras captured this pumping device, siphoning water directly from the river into the farms. The water that is sprinkled onto the pineapple plantation bears a familiar smell at close range, which confirms our suspicion. A company employee who will remain anonymous informed us that the farm uses the river water in its raw form to irrigate its produce. The same is confirmed by an engineer with the National Irrigation Board in charge of the Galana Irrigation Project, who discloses that many other irrigation projects use the polluted water to grow food for the country.
Right away from 14 Falls, we have the De La Monde farms. And the De La Monde farms have released from the Mukamuku Cooperative Society. So we have big areas there under pineapples, and they are pumping directly from the Athi River. Then from there we have the first Alcora public scheme, which is called Kayata. This is a gravity-fed system which we have stocked directly, and it's commanding up to 3,000 acres. These farmers are growing horticultural crops, they are growing maize, they are growing bananas, and just across all the crops you can imagine for food security. Then from there now, right from there, we have now some bit of individual farmers pumping straight from the river. Then just as you go a few kilometers, like some 20 kilometers or so, there's a Kaba, the Kaba irrigation scheme. It's also an gravity system which commands about 500 acres. Farmers are also growing food crops and horticultural crops. And most of these crops find their market in Kilimani and also Mwala and up to Machakos. Then just downstream, about 5 kilometers or so, we have the Kamudhampia irrigation scheme. It's another project with about 500 acres under irrigation. Farmers are also equally growing horticultural crops of sale to the markets and food crops like maize. Now from there, we go down towards Makueni region, towards the Thwake Dam, where now we are doing the storage. And you are aware that once we do the Thwake Dam, we are targeting to put 100,000 acres under irrigation with the Thwake Dam, using the same source of water.
Sasa mimi nikiwaambia, kwa sababu hata wakiwa huko kwa factory, kwa sababu naona sasa wakimwaga maji yenye iko na chemicals kwa hii mto, hata wao tunawaafect, kwa sababu hii matunda wanaenda wanakula. Hii sukuma ninapeleka Githurai. Sasa si hao hata wanakula. Kwa hivyo kama wanaweza, watafute mahali wawe wanaweka hiyo uchafu mbaya, wanaweza kutusaidia sana na wajisaidia hata wao.
Further downstream in Galana, a project is ongoing. The vastness of the maize fields reveals that this is a grain basket in the making. The mechanized watering system is an indication of the great investment that has gone into the project. However, at the water source, the only attempt to purify the water is a light filtration to ensure that the pumping system isn't clogged by the debris carried by the river.
We are now trying to realize the full potential of the Athi. Now that we are doing the Thwake Dam, and we are doing the Galana. Because too much of what has been happening are small schemes which are stocked indirectly from the river. So what I would say is that eventually we are looking at a river now which will be able to command up to almost 4,000 acres under crop.
The Galana irrigation project seeks to cut the food deficit in the country by half. The project will utilize at least 170,000 acres to grow maize for feeding the areas that are affected by drought, specifically the lower eastern region, northeastern region and the coast. While the scientists tell us that the grain may be safe, the stocks are not. However, the government's plan for the stock means that the danger remains.
ADC, their main mandate and what they are doing majorly in the other part of the farm in Galana is livestock. So we are looking at a scenario whereby also now the stocks will be used on livestock. And you know, this one we easily complement. We are doing production of maize, and in the other side we are also now undertaking in a major way now livestock production in Galana.
At Thwake in Makueni County, construction is ongoing along the river. The area is restricted, but the periodic blasts from deep in the construction area and the machinery going in and out of the restricted area are an indication of a promising project. The river will supply water to the region and more specifically to the Konza city.
The Thwake River is critical because it will not only provide water to that proposed new city or to the people of Makueni and Machakos, but Thwake will rejuvenate the land.
When of course people know that the water coming to Konza is contaminated, that will not be a selling point for the city. So it's a big issue.
If it was maximized, if it was fit for human consumption, it could solve all the water needs, and I'm saying all the water needs for these three counties. Because all the other rivers in these three counties, most of them are draining back to Athi River. When every other river in Makueni, Kitui has dried, this water is still flowing.
But the integrity of the water is a matter of concern.
To a large extent, unless the pollution is stopped, we're just damming poison. It's not even a sewer, we're just damming poison. Because this is poison. That color you see, those chemicals, that is poison to the blood.
So you can imagine doing a 86 billion dam to store sewer. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. You better use 50% of that money to clean the river and do a smaller dam or whatever you do, but you make sure that you do not lose. Otherwise, if you do such a dam and you tap such a water, you will also spend a lot of money to treat that water to become useful or to become good for human consumption.
The workers are taking their midday break. They walk towards the Athi River if only to cool down. The water is their source of solace and comfort. They, however, feel the effect of the harsh water, but this is the only source of water available for miles.
Imagine inakuanga chafu. Saa zingine unaweza pata mtu amekuja na ajui ama kuna kizima za kufukua alafu utumie maji anakuja anakunywa hii. Inamdhuru afya zake. Ukioga unasikia sio poa, ndio unaashwa sana. Unajikwara sana. Mpaka kesho yake ndio waache kusikia hiyo maneno sasa.
Makueni County has a troubling water shortage. You make do with what's available. Take this dried up riverbed, for instance. Vehicles travel for long distances to draw water from this point, which unlike most areas provides clean, fresh water. They dig out the sand and underneath lies the very precious commodity. For a 20-litre jerrycan, these traders charge 20 shillings. Kisula tells us that Makueni has no choice but to rely on the Athi River for water.
This river, the place it traverses, right from the start of the county to the end, is the driest part of the county. Yeah, very strangely. So, you cannot even drill boreholes there because the water is very saline. And if you get water, you'll get very low volumes or quantities.
And so it does not come as a surprise when we witness traders and area residents drawing water from the Athi River. Our scientists are still with us, collecting the samples for the study.
It's unfortunate that we will call this clean water. We would have expected this water to have undergone some treatment before it is consumed. However, that looks like it may not be happening. We will advise more, and of course we'll be able to see a broader picture after we have seen the actual components that are in this water.
Philip Masila has depended on this business for many years. He is also a resident of Makueni from birth and has witnessed the changes in the water over time.
Nyakati hizo maji ilikuwa safi sana. Ilikuwa hata ukiangalia nini uwezi kushindwa kunywa. Lakini wakati huu ukiangalia unaona hii maji ni kama sio mzuri kwa kunywa.
He is saddened by the lack of concern by those responsible for the pollution. His tanker has the inscription "Clean Water," which is a far cry from the true description of the water he draws for his customers. He supplies the water to residential areas and guest houses around Makueni. He tells us that though he knows that the water is not clean, it is the only source available, and so he does what he must.
Ndio hakuna mahali pengine pa kunywa maji, unakunywa hiyo tu direct. Hakuna uweke dawa gani au dawa gani. Wengi hata akija hapa akiwa na kiu anachota anakunywa na anaenda.
The same goes for his colleague Daniel Mutua. He is on his way to a farm where he works, and he makes several trips in a day.
Chota maji ya kwenda kufua nguo, kukunywa, kuonga na matumizi mengine.
If I can't drink that water, I shouldn't allow anybody to drink that water. And yet, I cannot stop the pollution that is happening upstream. So I feel a lot of guilt. I feel, I feel bad. I feel very, very bad.
Life goes on, albeit with great struggle. A struggle that city dwellers may not be aware of. We proceed further downstream to Malindi, Kilifi County. This is Sabaki, where the river meets the ocean. The water sampling is a little complicated at this point, as the scientists will need to take samples from different spots to ensure that they separate the salty ocean water to the fresh river water. Residents of this area depend on the river for fishing and for agriculture. For a select few, the river also serves their domestic needs. Downstream in Sabaki, the effects of the toxic flow is palpable. Residents like Zawadi Kadenge have had to improvise ways of cleaning the water before use to avert the health risks that come with consuming the water.
Maji ambayo tulikuwa tukitumia ni mekundu mpaka tununue dawa ndo tupige ile maji ya safishike yawe masafi ndo tuyatumie kunywa, kupikia. Na baada ya kwamba tunataka maji ya kunywa mpaka tuyachemshe. Hiyo kwa kilo, hiyo dawa tayari ni 150. Ukinunua hiyo unamaliza mwezi mmoja ndio ishe. Alafu utachanganya na majirani watakuomba wasaidie, ambaye ana nafasi ya pesa msaidie apige maji yake asaidie watoto wake.
The cost was too high to bear and still diseases were rampant. They now rely on water from different water points provided by the county and by humanitarian organizations.
Watu wanunua chombo cha maji, plastiki ni 20, plastiki moja bei yake ni shilingi 2 na sumi, bombo viwili ni shilingi 5. ambao kwa siku plastiki zangu za maji huwa nabeba plastiki 10, ndio huwa ninashindana hizo mpaka kesho tena plastiki 10.
This cost to them is a small price to pay compared to the health challenges they faced using the polluted water in the past, not to mention the high hospital fees.
There has been an increase of cancer cases, both cervical cancer, breast cancer, throat cancer, all type of cancers. Sometimes we ask ourselves, even at the community level, why is it that there has been an increase of cancers? Why is it? Is it type of food? Is it the lifestyles? What exposures are there?
Daniel Kazito shares the same sentiments. He has lost 2 family members who died from a strange disease that they suspect could have been caused by the water.
La kwanza ilikuwa ni throat cancer. Na wa pili ilikuwa ni nimekwambia kansa ya kwenye hii ambayo inazuia meno hii. Chanzo aliyekuwa anapiga mswaki tu wa kijiti. Ndio akaanza kutoka damu na damu ikaanza kutirika hivyo hivyo, uvimbo kazidi mpaka ikawa kwa sura hata anatisha.
So this is a bacterial testing.
The results of the water tests may provide answers to his questions regarding the contents of the river, but may fall short of confirming whether or not the river is related to his loss.
Maji mazuri ni haya mineral water. Maana hata si mazuri hayo, lakini vile tunakunywa tu. Lakini hata maji ya mfereji si mazuri. Lakini tunakunywa hivyo hivyo, sababu pesa tu ndio ile kusema kama maji hayana haramu.
At the river, we find Sofa Karisa, a fisherman who also engages in some farming by the river, which at this point is called River Sabaki. His produce suffers occasional distractions from these masters of the water. While these animals pose a danger to the crop and to humans, there is something more sinister in the waters.
Mimi nalima mahindi, nyanya na mboga, tomato, sukuma wiki, spinach, biringanya, mchicha, na natumia maji ya mtoni kunyunyizia. Nyingine ukimwagia mimea inaweza kuanza kukufa, kusinyaa ama kuangusha majani.
Most of the residents of Sabaki have never traveled to the city of Nairobi. And while they complain about the state of the river here, they are unaware of how the waters look like upstream. We give Karisa a glimpse of where the water he depends on for food and drink comes from.
Ningefikiria huu uchafu wanatupa hapa wangeliacha kutupa, kwa sababu kama haya ndo ambayo yanatoka kule yanakuja paka kwa mtu wa Sabaki, yana uchafu mwingi ajabu ambao ndo magonjwa mengi yanatudhuru kwa sababu ya uchafu kama ule. Rangi ni meusi, ni machafu zaidi. Ndo yakifika huku yanachange, yanakuwa mengine yanakuwa meusi, yanakuwa na wekundu, kwa sababu ya huku mchanga wenyewe nao pia huo unageuza yale maji yakifikia huku. Kwa hivyo si mzuri, yangelikuwa yanatupa takataka paka yanakuwa namna ile. Na huku watu wanatumia kunywa, watu wanatumia huku kuoga, wanatumia kufulia, wanatumia kunyunyizia miti maji.
The scientists collect fish and sediments growing around the river to get a historical picture of the chemical composition of the water.
Those are edible, and when they eat, they live in that water which is contaminated. They accumulate these toxicants and may end up causing health problems to the consumers.
The samples once collected are supposed to be taken to the lab within 24 hours, which the scientists were able to achieve with every sample collected from source to the mouth of the river. It took a month for the results to be ready, and they were alarming to say the least.
Our final finding is that the Nairobi water is not safe, especially after it has left its source.
The results revealed the presence of heavy metals in the water, which was also confirmed in higher levels in the fish and plants that were tested. Manganese was discovered in the water from the source at 0.4 milligram per litre to the mouth at 0.95 milligram per litre. The highest levels of manganese were recorded at Pipeline area along Outer Ring Road in Nairobi, where the levels were at 3.56 milligram per litre. The recommended limit is 0.1 milligram per litre. Manganese is toxic to animals and humans when consumed in high amounts. It is known to affect the respiratory system and the brain, resulting in hallucination, forgetfulness, and nerve damage. In some cases, the accumulation of manganese in the body is known to cause the development of tumors.
We are seeing a lot of cases of cancer. We are not sure whether they are directly caused by the waters or not, but we cannot rule that out. Our hypothesis is that there is a big contribution of pollution into the diseases that we are seeing. We are seeing also respiratory diseases are rising up, some of those things, and then the traditional tropical diseases, whereby people have stomach ailments that don't seem to go away, and then now people are getting rashes. You know, when I look at my health report, you see people are starting to get rashes and what they call skin diseases.
Also present in the water is lead, recorded at every point of sampling. The scientists recorded lead at a high of 0.08 milligram per litre. Lead is highly toxic, more so to children. It affects multiple body systems. Lead is known to be stored in the brain, liver, kidney, and bones, where it accumulates over time. Lead in the bone is released into the blood during pregnancy and is transferred to the developing fetus. According to the World Health Organization, there is no known safe level of lead exposure. In children, lead can have profound and permanent adverse health effects on the brain and nervous system. In adults, it causes an increased risk of high blood pressure and kidney damage. Exposure of pregnant women to high levels of lead may result in miscarriage, stillbirth, premature birth, and low birth weight.
Our health personnel are grappling with why in the neighborhood of that river people would have high incidence of infertility.
Arsenic was not found in the water, but very high levels were discovered in a crab fished out at the Sabaki River. The crab was found to have 3.84 milligram per litre level of arsenic, a far cry from the recommended limit of 0.1 milligram per litre, which means it had 38 times more arsenic than what is recommended by the World Health Organization. Long-term exposure to arsenic from drinking water and food can cause cancer and skin lesions.
Boiling of water will mainly target the living contaminants like the bacteria, the protozoa, the viruses, but the chemicals, the metals, they are heat resistant.
It has also been associated with cardiovascular disease and diabetes. In utero and early childhood exposure, it has been linked to negative impacts on cognitive development and increased deaths in young adults.
So if you live in Nairobi, in one of the big beautiful estates in Nairobi, and you think that just because you're not in Machakos, or you think that you're not in Makueni or Kitui or Kilifi, that you're immune. But the sukuma wiki being brought to your table, the stew, the chicken you're eating, the curry you're making, already is infected, then you're also in trouble. So this is a problem for all of us.
Iron was also present, and though not harmful at low levels, Iron in water is considered a contaminant because it also contains bacteria that feed off it. In addition to this, high iron content leads to an overload, which can cause diabetes, stomach problems, nausea, and vomiting. Other elements found in the samples tested include aluminium, which in high levels may cause problems with the nervous system, copper, which in high levels may cause headaches and stomach discomfort, and barium, whose health effects include cardiovascular diseases, kidney diseases, metabolic, neurological, and mental disorders, according to a Duke University study. Though no traces of mercury were found, the scientists say that they cannot rule them out, as this depends on changing variables such as the time the samples were collected and the outlet of the chemicals from the source of pollution.
Hizi ni nyumba za kanjo ama niza? Hii ni Ngara housing. In the raw sewage.
While this may be new information to many, it is not to the government, as the discovery was made years ago.
There's a study that was brought up when I was working for the national government during a permanent secretary's meeting, when somebody said that they found out that the people who live or who are affected by the Athi River, basically from Nairobi River, Athi River, Galana, all the way to Sabaki River, that due to the pollution in those rivers, that the cases of cancer tend to be high, or even slightly higher, along this region as a result of the pollution of that river.
You know, you cannot have an environment that is free of everything, because all the things that we use, the preservatives we use, so there are some levels that they say from the health point of view, this level is okay. You should not be scared. But if you go beyond this level, then you should try to put mechanism. So when we did that in those days, it was said that what we should be very much concerned is the E. coli, the bacteria from domestic waste, from sewage.
If lawmakers do not take action, the waters will continue to threaten the life of not just the living, but also the unborn.
I've made it very clear to my people of Machakos, especially my manufacturers, my business people. I want them to make money. However, I will not look the other way if they are polluting. I will not allow them to pour blood. I will not allow them to kill our mothers and our fathers and our children, born and unborn. I will not allow them to destroy the lives of our youth so that their bank accounts can be richer.
An individual can be exposed to a chemical once in his lifetime, and it can take several years before the cancer develops. So a single exposure can cause cancer. But the more exposure, the more repeated the exposure, the more likelihood. So it varies from one individual to another.
Are you telling me it's now that there's cancer everywhere, big guys are dying of cancer, that we are realizing there's a problem? We have been incubating a problem.
We have a big challenge with NEMA. Some of NEMA's officers are the ones who are actually, because of corruption, also contaminated, because we've had struggles at times trying to shut down some factories which are given a clean bill of health.
This may be perception that government officers are compromised unless somebody has a fact. And if you have facts, then disciplinary action will be taken against such a person.
Wherever the river passes, life continues as normal, while the toxic flow remains a silent killer targeting not just the innocent, but also the polluters. The effects are now visible with the increased diagnosis of diseases that may be linked to some of the chemicals discovered in the water. It will take a united effort to not only clean the Nairobi River, but also protect the soils, which, if saturated with the toxins, may be even harder to remedy. Charity Mwangi, NTV.